Okay, welcome to this second EPSRC, BVSRC, MRC webinar. We are now ready to start, but before I start, I'd like to explain some kind of ground principles on how we intend to run this webinar. So currently, you can't actually talk to us because we've muted everybody. That is because we don't want to have any kind of audio feedback, which would be quite disruptive. At the end of the presentation, when we go through the questions, we will unmute people one by one when people want to ask questions. So that's not really an issue. I'm hoping that everyone who can see the slides has also phoned in. Obviously, I can't actually double check that. If you've got any technical question, you should use the little chat box on the bottom right-hand corner of your screen, and Georgina Brown, my colleague, will try to answer any specific problems you can have in terms of hearing, seeing the slides, what have you. So, I mean, we hope that the presentation will last no longer than about 20 minutes. Then we'll have about half an hour time for questions, and obviously once we've exhausted all the questions, the webinar will end. So I will get started. Okay, so my name is Nico Gugno. I'm actually a senior sector manager here in EPSRC, looking after the interface between EPSRC and the pharmaceutical and medical biotech sector. Next to me is James Phillips from BVSRC, who's also one of the key contacts for this call. Hoping to join us a bit later would be Carolina Melos from the Medical Research Council, also one of the key contacts for the call. The initiative is a partnership between the three research councils, and it has been scoped after a fairly long consultation with a number of key industrial partners from a variety of different industrial sectors. But potentially, I could say it was initiated in partnership with the kind of number of pharmaceutical and medical biotechnology companies. So the aims of the webinar are to brief you about what we're trying to do with this call and what we expect it to achieve. And we're going to record the webinar, and we will put it on our website alongside a list of frequently asked questions, so that you can refer back to that once after the end of this meeting. We're hoping to have done that by the beginning of next week. So, as far as the research councils go, we are entering a fairly changing environment, but we are committed to working collaboratively to support the best research across the different remit boundaries of EPSRC, MRC, and BVSRC. And obviously, the key focus for the research councils remain funding excellent research, with the expectation that at some point in the future it have an impact upon the economy and society at large. So the focus on excellence does remain the primary focus, but we've got to realise that we're entering a potentially restricted fiscal environment, and that research funding will need to be increasingly focused in areas of strength, and especially when there's an industrial base which can help accelerate the exploitation of research outputs. Chemical biology as a research area, we believe, is a prime candidate to achieve this. So by working together to trigger a step change in collaboration, we believe that as research councils we have an opportunity to make a real difference. And I think the slide just kind of sums it up. We're hoping to hit those three areas of focus. So what do we mean by chemical biology? The definition is, I've put it on the slide there, the use of chemistry and chemical tools to understand and solve biological problems. So there are many different definitions of chemical biology, but that's the one we've decided to adopt for this for this call. I mean, in 2009 we had an international review of chemistry, which was initiated by EPSRC, but it was also a partnership with BBSRC. And actually the International Review Panel highlighted this area as a key strength of the UK research landscape. And research in this area underpins much of a variety of different industrial sectors, including pharmaceuticals and medical biotechnology, but as well as others, for instance, agrochemicals, consumer products, and the food sector. And we had a workshop back in June, which it was re-emphasized that the UK, as it stands, is probably second only to the US in the area. And as far as the portfolio of research in chemical biology goes, it's obviously very large. We estimate the portfolio to, across the 3 research councils, to be around £100 million per annum spend. BBSRC remains the kind of the largest funder of chemical biology research, but EPSRC and MRC also have a significant portfolio. So it didn't make perfect sense to start to work together in that area. So I mentioned excellence with impact earlier. I mean, excellent research underpinning healthcare is a priority for all 3 research councils, and we're showing that through the call. And we are working in partnership to accelerate the impact on the respective portfolio, and there's a real opportunity to work with industry and other user organizations to achieve this. I mean, other areas that we're working together, for instance, is we are in the process of designing a strategy for interaction with the pharma sector across the 3 research councils, but also working with medical charities, for instance. I mean, the importance of the industrial sectors interested in this area is not to be underestimated. A significant proportion of them are keen to access knowledge and expertise available in UK universities and research institutes. So, what's the opportunity here? I mean, one of the things that we noticed in the early days, back at the end of last year, we did a bit of a portfolio analysis across the different research councils. And we noticed actually the levels of industrial collaborations in this area were reasonably lower than in others. For instance, for EPSRC, which has a collaborative portfolio of around 40% across the board, less than 10% of the EPSRC portfolio in chemical biology is actually collaborative with the user organization. And actually we felt that was potentially a significant concern. And especially user organization and industry are keen to develop and further collaborations more than ever before. Chemical biology is an area where collaborations between academic researchers and user organization must therefore be fostered. Collaboration will help generate new ideas and concepts and may well help accelerate the impact of the research. This is a real opportunity in our view. So I mentioned a workshop back on the 10th of June. It may well be that some of you actually attended. We had around about 50 people from industry, universities, relevant knowledge transfer network, and learning societies attending the event. The meeting aimed to build collaborations between academia and industry, and to look at the challenges in chemical biology and how they could be tackled together in partnership. We've actually written a report about the workshop, which captured the main points from the talks and discussion sessions. We accept that this was only a starting point, and it doesn't actually it's far from having all the answers. I think that's the aim of the networks, and that's what we're trying to do with the networks. But please, we would advise you to have a look at the report, which is available on our website, and the link is on the slide. I'll just go through some of the key messages from the workshop. I think the first message is that, long-term collaborations between academic research, especially different disciplines in academic research and chemical biology, and industry must be developed and maintained if a real impact is to be generated from research councils' investments. There were many examples of good entrepreneurship, and we should try to work to exploit this to make a difference. There was still a significant concern that access to materials and data from industry can be a barrier to collaborations. But genuine long-term collaborations can help overcome those, and the networks should be able to help to do this. And there was also a clear message that chemistry can help biology, but vice versa, and it's not just a one-way street. So now we're going to talk about the call more specifically. The call is actually based around the 4 themes discussed at the workshop. Your proposal must address at least one of the 4 themes outlined in the call document, although we will consider proposals that address all the challenges in chemical biology, as long as a strong business case can be articulated. And applicants should consider carefully the current strategic high-level priorities of the 3 research councils when designing their application. And you can find an explanation of each research council's priority on the links provided in the call documents. Okay, so now I'm going to describe a little bit, what we mean by collaborative network award. So first, it's worth redefining what we mean by network. So network, as defined by the research councils, is to provide funding to bring together researchers, user organization and other groups to develop collaboration through workshop visits and part-time coordinators. We do envisage, however, that the collaborative networks will differ from any standard networking grants. And how are they going to differ from the standard networking grants? I think one of the ambitions for this call is that they should involve user organization and or industrial partners right from the start. And we would expect the industrial partners and other user organizations to be involved in the writing of the proposal. And using the themes as a starting point, we would expect that the bids would explore the research challenges in chemical biology that can be tackled together in partnership. We do expect basically structured activities that build bridges and find creative ways to enable knowledge sharing and collaborations between academic researchers and users. And the other expectation is that we should be looking at truly interdisciplinary or multidisciplinary collaborations, for example, between the chemical sciences and the biological sciences. And the network should really help develop and flourish those. So other features of the Collaborative Network Award, because we want as much cross-fertilizations of ideas between the networks, we would like the network grant to all start early in April 2011. And we also would like them to last for a minimum of 12 months. And obviously, one of the key features, and they've got to be grounded in the needs of user organization. And in the call, we've defined user organization as broadly as can be. And I'd invite you to refer to the call if you're unclear in terms of what that means. And I think that there is a role for Research Council to play. We'll work with the funded awards to help coordinate activities if our help is needed in terms of sharing ideas and best practice. So in terms of activities that can be run under the network umbrella, well, we encourage the applicant to think creatively and widely about the range of activities for which they might seek support for the collaborative networks. I mean, you can have a look at the EPSRC website and grants on the web, and if you type in network, you'll see a range of potential activities that can be run under that. And it's worth noting one of the significant differences here is that you can, should you wish to, apply for an amount of funding for research feasibility studies, for instance. So I put down the list on the slide, but it's by no means exclusive or exhaustive. For example, research reviews, problem-solving activities, PhD student or staff placements and exchanges, mention feasibility studies, scoping of data availability, but obviously, by all means, do remember the aims of the call as I've stated at the beginning of this presentation. So who should be involved and engaged in the network? Well, in terms of who can apply, I think the Research Council's eligibility criteria apply here. the organization that are eligible to apply under EPSRC, VBSRC or MRC managed/targeted modes are eligible to apply. The network proposal must be submitted by a principal investigator from an academic institution who will be responsible for the development and the management of the network. You can ask for funding for one co-investigator if the network is to be managed jointly, but that's not compulsory. And all the other individuals participating in the network should not be identified as co-investigator. They should be named in the case for support as network participants. We require, and that's a requirement for the call, that you have at least one formal user organization as a partners. And that can be, for example, an industrial partner, that could be a hospital, for instance. It should be officially named as project partner on the proposal, and the value of the contribution, whether it's cash or in kind, including staff time, should be acknowledged appropriately. Okay. So in terms of what do we expect to get out of this initiative, what we're really looking for is a step change in the level of collaboration between academia and user organization in the area of chemical biology and related disciplines. And that can be articulated in two ways now, from our perspective. Either through a rising number of new collaborations to emerge from one or several of the funding networks. The other angle could be a deepening or broadening of existing collaboration, realizing that there are already a lot of collaboration out there, and it's worth just trying to make the most of those already that are out there at the moment. The other one is identifying and refining research priorities and challenges, either to basically start investigating emerging research challenges to be tackled in partnership, or if there are some existing challenges that would benefit hugely from further collaboration between academic researchers and users, that should be explored as well. So in terms of dissemination, we expect all award holders to disseminate outcomes as widely and appropriately as possible. There are no currently no fixed expectations for what the outputs should be. But obviously we'll be looking for appropriate route for dissemination, whether it's the standard normal academic routes, the internet. I mean, we would strongly recommend that networks think about setting up a web page or a wiki for forum discussions, etc., in order to encourage and develop more dissemination. You could also look at policy or other types of publications. In terms of reporting to the research councils, principal investigators will be expected to produce a short interim progress report during the course of the award, assessing the extent to which aims and objectives have been met. The ground condition for all successful collaborative network application would reflect the expectations set above. I mean, the thing to say here is that we're not looking for pages of prose about how well the network is doing. We'll be looking for kind of short and sharp reporting on what the activities have been and what they've led to. So in terms of the total funding available, on the call document we have indicated that £800,000 will be made available for this call. And that's really depending on the quality of the applications received. I mean, we are hoping to actually go above £1 million in total funding for this call. But we didn't have all the information in hand at the time the call was released. So funding is intended to cover the operating and support costs of the network, and we expect to see a full justification of resources to be included in the proposal. So as mentioned earlier, the principal investigator can request funds to cover the salary costs for the time spent on setting up and managing the network, and if it's appropriate, for one co-investigator to assist with the management. And time spent by the PI and the co-I should only be for the coordination of the network, and we certainly wouldn't expect that to form the majority of the cost of the call. In terms of administrations and communication support, that obviously can be requested to help with the coordination of the network, and for any additional equipment such as web servers, where appropriate, for instance. In terms of research support, that is also an eligible cost, specifically to support the activities of the collaborative networks. One of the examples I gave earlier was to undertake some small feasibility studies, for instance, or placements, etc., etc. But the requirement here that the support for these activities should not exceed 50% of the total value of the collaborative network grant application. The other thing to consider is, if you are going to ask for money for feasibility studies, for instance, that this funding and how it's going to be allocated, it has to be accountable. Okay, we're not looking at a means to bypass the peer review process. There has to be in the management plan of the network description on how the money will be spent. In terms of travel and subsistence, we would expect this to form a significant proportion of the request for funding, and that should enable the members of the network to meet together to exchange ideas and expertise. And that could include visits by overseas participants or actually visits abroad. Obviously, there's money available for event organizations in terms of accommodation, equipment hire, running events more generally. And in terms of collaboration support, we would expect that additional funding would be leveraged from user organizations that are kind of partnering on the grants. One example could be for one industrial partner to host an event, for instance, at the kind of very minimum level. Okay, so next I'm going to talk a little about the format of the proposal and get into a bit of the detail. I mean, those are the kind of key headings, and many of you will be used to this kind of format. The thing that differs significantly from maybe previous proposal that people are not maybe used to seeing so much is the statement of support, for instance. So for each of the project partners named in the grant proposal, we need kind of firm confirmation on what the project partners would be contributing. And we have added some guidance on our website, so I would urge you to have a look at the link indicated on the slide and check that out, because it is different to a standard letter of support. We will still accept kind of letters of support of user organizations that wish to join the network, but may not be able to actually provide concrete help, if you like. And so we will not reject those, but as soon as you name a project partner in the proposal, this project partner will have to write a statement of support, and there's more detail on that on the website. Okay, there's obviously pathways to impact, and many of you will have started to get used to writing those. There's some guidance on the website on this, but this is really an opportunity to show the breadth of impact that the network can have, and how you intend to use the resources that you're asking for to try to deliver some of that impact. So I'll talk a bit more about the case for support and what we expect to see in it. So we'd like you to hear more about what the focus of the collaborative network is going to be. So that's the thematic areas to be explored and how they relate to at least two of the Sponsoring Research Council's high-level strategic priorities. And you can find the strategic priorities on our website. The links are on the call document as well. And a key aspect here is what is the added value to the existing activities in this research area that promote collaborative approaches with user organizations. So once you've talked about the themes, it's important to talk about who will be involved. We want to know who the core membership of the collaborative network will be. That should be listed in the case for support. And a description of the disciplines and the different degrees of expertise to be involved in the network, and drawn from the relevant scientific, technological, and/or engineering areas as appropriate. And also, we would like to hear about proposals to engage relevant user organizations and other stakeholders, for example, knowledge transfer networks or learning societies, and obviously industrial partners in the network. So we want to know more about how the collaborative network will operate, what's the management, what are the plans for development of the network, what are the proposed activities, how the activities will be promoted to potential participants, because we expect the networks to be open and not just reserved to a handful of individuals. and also the plans for extending collaborations of participants and partners, and, if appropriate, sustaining the network beyond the award period. I mean, we realize that some of the networks we land and may not go any further, but some others may be able to be sustained over time, depending on the type of research challenge that is being tackled. And in terms of outcomes and outputs, what are the expected outcomes and outputs? Nature of the envisaged impact on the development of the research area, details of planned outputs, plans for disseminations, pathways to impact, as I've mentioned before. And that will make up the case for support. So, in terms of the assessment process, we're not going to have a postal peer review step in the process for this call. We will actually go straight to an expert panel. And the main reason for that is we do not expect to receive 50 network applications. I mean, that would be quite unreasonable. We do expect a significant number, but a manageable number. And the way it's going to run is we will actually draw experts from the different peer review colleges and other committees from the 3 research councils involved. And that will also include industrial partners that are not directly associated with the network proposals. Obviously, we don't need fund proposals of the highest quality, but there are a number of criteria that you ought to bear in mind. In terms of generic criteria, I mean, we'll be looking at to what extent does the proposal meet the ends of the initiative, how the academic to users collaborations will be fostered through the network mechanism, and how they'll help to develop new understanding, ideas and concepts that will contribute towards solving research challenges in the area. The other aspect is what's the fit to Research Council strategic priority? To what extent the proposal would contribute to the delivery of strategic priorities of EPSRCvideo and or Medical Research Council? In terms of specifics, I mean, maybe that's repeating a little bit what I've mentioned previously, but I think the panel will be interested in finding out the range of expertise and experience of the network members and how appropriate that is to deliver the impact promised by the network, the quality and appropriateness of the network activities proposed, and the extent to which they'll lead to bridge building between academia and users, as well as research disciplines, and cross-fertilization of ideas, and also an improved understanding of the different perspectives of research challenges in chemical biology. Engagement with users that will be scrutinized fairly heavily. We'll be looking at the panel will be looking at the strength of the proposed plans for developing and sustaining collaborations with users within the network. Added value is a key, the key angle to this. What is the added value of the proposed activities compared to what's already going on in the field of chemical biology? Of course, the panel will be looking at management plans as well. What are the plans for managing the network and how the collaborations will be managed is another interesting one. Timescales, whether there's a realistic timetable to deliver the objectives set out in the proposal. The cost is obviously another issue, but I think the thing to bear in mind is more the kind of value for money, whether the costs are reasonable and the extent to which the outcome justify the cost. The plans for dissemination, and I mentioned again sustainability, and that may not be the case for all the networks. We're not suggesting that all networks should be sustainable by the end of the award, but I think in some cases this would be highly appropriate. So please bear that in mind when writing your applications. Okay, so there's a one-stage process. The deadline is the 30th of November 2010 at 4 p.m. We will not accept application after 4 p.m., so don't try. And the peer review panel at the moment is planned for February 2011 with decisions communicated in early March. It is our expectation that we would want all the network to start early April. Obviously, because these are networks, and we wouldn't be looking for a large amount of research activities taking place under those. We would hope that the people that are in place can start work immediately, if you like. So we would not want to see any major delays. And obviously, we would, if you are putting in an application and you feel there might be a significant delay for whatever reason, please let us know as early as possible. Okay, so thanks for your attention. Now we're going to have time for questions for about half an hour, 40 minutes, however long it takes. I will ask you to, in turn, raise your virtual hand using the little icon on the screen, and obviously wait for your turn. What we're going to do is enable the sound, and then you can ask your question, and I will then answer to the rest of the audience as well. Please do tell us whether the answer is satisfactory, so we know whether we've answered it or not. And then we move to the next questions. At the end of the webinar, if there's anything that's left unanswered, please, send us an email at the kenbio@EPSRC.ac.uk or give us a call. And as I said, we'll have the frequently asked question and recorded webinar on the website as early as possible. So I'll now take questions. Andrew, hi.
Hi, Nicholas. This is Andy Wilson. I have a question. I have a couple of questions, in fact. So this is a collaborative network opportunity, so there's not going to be much actual scientific activity going on or new science going on. Will there be opportunities to define funding priorities and funding objectives in collaboration with the research councils? Is this an anticipated objective or outcome?
I think that's a very good point. We would be looking to work, the three councils and the network award holders in identifying what those kind of long-term priorities are going to be. And so the answer is yes to that. Obviously, we can't predict at the moment what the outcomes of such a process might be. But it's definitely we're not just going to fund and forget. We will work with the networks. We may even set up an event to look at kind of best practice and cross-fertilization of ideas. So absolutely, the answer is.
Okay, so to extend that, you say a network should last a minimum of 12 months, but you don't put a time limit on a network.
No, we don't put a time limit because, from experience, the most successful networks tend to last between 12 months and 3 years. There is an average network time, if you like. I think it depends what research challenges are being looked at. Where we're looking at very established challenges, that needs a bit of refining, or whether you're looking at something which is new and emerging. So I think minimum of 12 months, because we felt that anything below that probably wouldn't lead to anything that exciting. But above that, I think as long as it's appropriate and the resources that you're asking for are appropriate, we wouldn't have a significant issues. Obviously, if you were going to ask for 6 years funding for a network, that would be justified very well indeed.
Okay. Can I have one more question?
You can.
Okay, so what you can ask for was a little bit unclear to me, but one of the ideas we were having at Leeds is perhaps looking to involve someone on secondment to help develop the network. This is something that seems to be working very well for one of the Grand Challenge networks in synthesis at the moment. Would there be
I'm aware of a couple of examples of successful secondments, so absolutely, yeah.
Would it be possible to do that here?
Yeah, I think that's one of the things that we did consider when we wrote the call, and it is phrased as saying placement, but I think by placement it can be a secondment if that's appropriate for what you want to do. So the answer is yes.
Because one of the things that we're thinking is it would be good to include additional industrial companies as we go forward with our network proposal, and it might be helpful to have someone actually in industry to help us do that.
I think from a research council's perspective, we have funded secondments, for instance with the Royal Society we have a secondment scheme, and we're trying to encourage that. So I think anything that, if that's if that fits with the end objective of the network, or please do ask for funding for that. Absolutely.
Okay. Thank you very much for your time.
You're welcome. Any other questions? Okay, so Stephen,
Hello there, Steve Haswell here.
Hi, Steve.
Hi there. Quick question. Under the research funding, I saw the bits that you were saying very much it's the COI and the PI that you can sort of support to do the activity, to lead the activities. But under that research funding, it follows on from Andrew's question, really. Are we able to appoint, say, a postdoc for 6 months to do some feasibility work?
Yes, I mean, what you would have to do in that case, because unless you know exactly who would be doing the work, then you could apply for a 6-month postdoc. Then would be a named postdoc in the proposal.
Yeah, it would be that, because it is a defined piece of work, not just a bit of open new research, but it would be a defined piece of work to deliver a product that was part of the feasibility work.
I think if that's going to, help the network with the overall vision and objectives, I think that's highly appropriate. The other route for doing that, if you didn't know, for instance, the person that you have in mind to do this work, and you wanted to have like a mini open competition, is to apply for a bit of funding on the directly incurred cost in the proposal, and you could do that. But if you did that, we want to see some real accountability in the management plan of the network on how the money was going to be spent if it wasn't proposed up front.
Okay, now, I see what you mean. What you don't want us to be doing is going off in a bit of speculative blue sky research. You want very clear, driven things that hit the network targets.
I think if you're going to name somebody, absolutely. If one of the objectives of the network was to explore the research challenges first and maybe do a bit of testing on a fairly low scale, then you could ask for a bit of research funding under the kind of directly incurred cost heading of the JES form, on the basis that you'd have a clear kind of a management strategy in saying, okay, we'll go into exploring a number of challenges first, and then after that we will probably appoint a postdoc for 3 months to do a bit of feasibility work around that research challenge, for instance. But I think if you're going to do that, you need to be very clear about how the money would be allocated.
Thank you. That's absolutely fine. Very clear.
Okay. Okay, Baining, do you have a question?
Yeah. Hi, Nicholas. A couple of questions. One is about your the research areas. You said that the research need to underpin health issues. For some health issues, for some therapeutic or areas which can directly involve the users, for example, the produce a drug, the company can take on, but in some area you can't. So basically, is this the end user is absolutely required for this kind of network or not?
End users are required in the sense that all the end users we talk to are very, very keen to kick off collaborations in areas that are kind of pre-competitive. So we're not looking at funding industrial R&D here, but what we're trying to do is make sure that there is a clear dialogue between the academic researchers and the user organization and industrial partners before the bids are put in, so that that you don't whatever challenges you're looking at addressing, that it's actually going to be at least of interest to end user organizations.
Right. Okay.
So if you had a very, very clear idea what you wanted to do, but there was absolutely no interest from the end user front, then one might argue that doesn't carry sufficient amount of weight. Right.
Okay. Yeah. Thank you. And the other thing is about the expert panels. How expert panels is have you got expert panels already in place, or it depends on what kind of proposal comes in?
Yeah, and I think what we're going to do is we will probably have a core membership of the panel, and then when the applications come in, I mean, we haven't actually selected panel members quite yet, but we will have a core membership which will be made up of a mix of committee members from the Medical Research Councils and EPSRC, and some people from the Peer Review College and EPSRC. And then when the proposals come in, we look at the spread of expertise, and then we'll try to get people that, one, aren't conflicted, obviously, with the networks, and two, can actually, really make a really clear assessment of the network proposals.
Right. Okay. Thank you.
Okay.
Thanks.
Hi, Jeff.
Yeah, hi Nicholas. It's Jeff Coxon here from the Strathclyde Institute for Pharmacy and Biomedical Sciences, and also speaking here as one of the co-directors of TB Drug Discovery UK, which is actually an MRC-funded collaboration grant-funded network, very, very similar indeed to what's proposed here. I've got a couple of points and questions, if I may, Nicholas.
Sure.
The first point is with regard to the administration support for these networks. I noticed from your slides that I believe, and correct me if I'm wrong, that it was expected that the coordination or admin support for this type of network was to be minimal. One of the things that I would suggest to listeners here, and also to yourselves, with experience from TBD UK, and bearing in mind that the administrator who works with me on TBD UK used to be the PA for the Commonwealth Games bid director, is that these types of consortia are exceptionally time-consuming to actually administer in the networks. So perhaps a bit of feedback here would be that maybe a bit of flexibility in how much administrative support might be appropriate. I would certainly recommend at least potentially 0.5 FTE to try and administer one of these projects. So with that in mind, Nicholas, are you flexible with, the amount of funding that one can request to actually administer these networks?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, that's a really, really good point, Jeff. We have noticed that in the past that the networks that work the best are the one where people haven't shied away from employing a PA or an administrative person at a reasonable level. I second that 100%. I mean, in terms of, I think what I was trying to get at is that, if you look at the overall cost of the network application, I wouldn't see the kind of the amount of money asked for admin to be the kind of the major part. But having said that, we've deliberately not put a cap on what this amount should be, because I think it's what's appropriate for the network. If you're looking at really pushing the frontiers and have a number of events, significant number of events over a significant period of time, and of course you need then the admin support to kind of back that up. So once again, it's a very pragmatic answer. Is what's appropriate for what you're trying to do. But once again, I'd second that and say let's not undermine the amount of effort that it takes to make those successful.
No, absolutely. The second question I've got is with regard to the academic, pharmaceutical, or industrial collaboration. Is this framework? Is this proposed network? Are you sort of aiming for academics to work with large-scale pharma, or is it equally applicable to small to medium enterprises? Is there any preferences? No,
there aren't preferences. I mean, I think when we had the workshop back in June, we did invite a mixed audience of fairly large corporations, many in the pharmaceutical space, but also some smaller medical biotech and other smaller kind of instrumentation firms, for instance. So no, we haven't got a preference. It's not for us to say you guys should be working with big pharma or you should be working with SMEs. I think it really, once again, it depends on the vision of the network, what you're trying to achieve, and what we're doing here is putting some small amount of funding to try to enable some of this, and to realize the impact of the vision. So.
Okay, well that's excellent, Nicholas. You've answered my questions fully there, so thank you.
Okay, you're welcome. Are there any other questions that? Oh yes. Oh yes. That's sparking off. So, David, hi.
Hi there. Hi there. Can you tell me, please, to what extent are you expecting these networks to be based on existing research activities that have a common interest theme running through them, and to what extent are you prepared to consider network activities that might have a purpose in defining areas of synergy that could move forward subsequently?
I think to answer that question, I think you need to think about what's the added value of So for instance, it may well be that there are areas that have been fairly heavily explored in academic research, for instance, but potentially industry has yet has yet to pick up on it. And I think that could be one where actually the research challenges are fairly well established, but this is where collaborations really need to take place for impact to take place in a kind of a longer term. So yeah, I think that the key things is we're not saying you have to focus on emerging research areas or you have to focus on established themes. I think it's all about the theme that you're looking to tackle and what the added value is going to be. Is our user organization interested? Is what I said to Beining Chen earlier, and I think that's what the panel will be looking at. From that's if I can use a very pragmatic answer.
Okay, thanks.
Does that answer your question?
Yeah, I think it gives me a steer.
Okay. There was possibly a question from Andy Pitt. Do you want to raise your hand again if you want to ask it? Has it been answered? Hi, Andy.
Hi, it's Andy Pitt from the University of Glasgow.
Hi.
My question was about the partners that you're looking for in this. You mentioned, obviously, pharmaceutical and SMEs in the biotech areas, but you also, I think, briefly mentioned things like healthcare providers and instrumentation manufacturers. So is it that we can take a pretty broad brush when it comes to getting people involved in these networks and try and look at some of the key areas of translating some of the discoveries through to end use and especially to point of care?
I think you're absolutely right. Depending on what research, what kind of sub-research area you're looking into, it's what user organization are appropriate to help you, tackle, those areas in partnership. So the same as we're not favoring large corporations versus SMEs, we're not going to favor one sector versus another. And I think it's really about, for instance, what a company like Syngenta might be interested in. It would be quite different to what Pfizer or a smaller company might be interested in. It might be again different to what an instrumentation firm would be interested in. So yeah, I think the broad brush approach is right, and it's good to have some partners on board from the start. But obviously, that doesn't mean to say that the kind of creating the partnership stop once the proposal has been submitted and designed, co-designed. I think if you can engage with as many end users as possible during the course of the network, that's obviously a really, really desired outcome.
That's great. Thank you.
You're welcome. Jeff Coxon, you had another question?
Oh, no, I don't. I must have pressed the button by mistake, so my apologies. Or either you're doing it from your side, perhaps, I don't know. But no, I'm okay. I'm fine, Nicholas, thanks.
I thought you were being very keen.
Oh, well, I would be normally, but I don't want to hog the phone call, so.
That's all right, Jeff. No problem. Okay, are there any final last-minute burning questions before we wrap up? Yes, we do.
Okay, this is Andy Pitt again. I wasn't quite clear. The call is around about 800,000 to 1 million. How many networks?
In the core document, it states specifically 800,000. What I like to stress is because when we wrote the call, we have the, this is actually a minimum amount, okay? So if there's a lot of quality, we may decide to go just above the £1 million mark, absolutely.
Do you have a feeling for how many networks you intend to fund and what sort of scale you're looking at for the size of the grants?
Okay, so that's a very good question. I mean, it is in the call, but I didn't actually stress it again in the presentation. I mean, in terms of numbers, we'll be looking at a number between 5 and 8 networks. In terms of amount of money, well, once again, there may be some, the minimum probably around 50k. It could go as high as between 200 and 300,000 pounds, depending on what people are doing. Obviously, if anyone wanted to apply for something that was going above the kind of 400 to 500,000 marks and was kind of going to take most of the funding, then we'd be looking for really strong justification as to what this network would be trying to achieve. And obviously, peer review will be looking at that very, very carefully indeed.
Great, thank you.
You're welcome. Any last-minute questions? I still got two virtual hands on my screen. I hope that's just a bug. Okay. If there's no more questions, I will remain for me to thank you all for ringing in today and taking part. I mean, I hope you found it informative. If you've got any feedback for us, positive or negative, please email the kenbio@epsrc.ac.uk. I mean, it is a new process for us using webinars, so any message of encouragement is highly appreciated. And thank you very much again for taking part. And good luck.